You're going to hold it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hey, folks, thanks for joining us again on a fan through service, a V2VG video podcast. Yeah, last time we did you'll probably see it up, we did a MRE taste test, and it's only this direction with
for most of it, yeah.
For most of it with the GoPro, so we kind of fucked up, but I didn't put it up yet, but I'm going to. Anyway, we're talking about our intern Patrick today, right?
Yeah, we have this fine young man who's spent pretty close to a month with us, and we just wanted to get his perspective on the experience he's had, and what was helpful, what was not helpful, how he felt the critiques were, and how he feels about the last two assignments that he has left to do.
Yeah, what are your last two assignments, Patrick? Do you remember? Do you know?
I have to do the board meeting.
You have to hold the board meeting. Yeah.
And then I just have to do something with band, right?
No, you got to come with us Wednesday, remember?
Oh, yeah, Wednesday to get food.
The last one is running the intake on our appointment Saturday.
And the intake on the appointment, yeah. And also come with us on Wednesday. So
Yes.
3 things. So Wednesday, we're going down to Project New Hope, the Vermont office, again, to get some food boxes.
Yeah, I think we got 6 or 7 families we're trying to provide for this time.
Yeah, and these are packed. The people down at Project New Hope really load those boxes up with a lot of food items and other things too. They have like hygiene products and stuff like that, right?
Tons of baby stuff, diapers, wipes,
baby stuff, formula,
all those things. Yeah.
So it's gonna be an experience to go down there, and we help the families out that way. Patrick has decided to hold the microphone like a rapper. You got to hold it up.
OG.
An old school rapper. But anyway, so
Patrick is going to be conducting an interview.
Yes.
As our next video, for that as practice, working on speaking in a more formal way. And
well, we are interviewing the people at Project New Hope when we go down, right?
Yes.
And Patrick's doing an interview.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
With obviously, when we say that, we're always going to be there to back him up. We're not throwing him to the lions, so to speak. We'll always be there to kind of help guide and correct some stuff.
Yeah. So what do you think about your experience with Veterans to Veterans Group so far, bud?
It's been good. I like the people. I think what we do is a really good thing for the community, especially living in New Hampshire. I feel like we have a lot of veterans, and
Sure.
the ones who are not in a financial stability, it's worse because of the winter. I've noticed that winter is a big drag for a lot of people. I never really had to worry about that because I had a house and a home and heating. But without that, I could imagine life being miserable and you practically being able to die because it's so cold up here.
Yeah, and a lot of our veterans, by the time they request assistance from us, they're pretty much on empty or getting close to it.
Yeah, and a lot of these organizations, there's a time period, and if they ask, they have to kind of wait till like September, October to ask, and then there's a time frame to wait, and it's like by that time it's already getting cold up here. I mean, mid-September it was dropping down to the 30s overnight and stuff, so it's nice to be able to apply or be the Band-Aid being applied while the bigger organizations can work.
Yeah, and we've said that a lot. We're a smaller organization, so we kind of just tactically move quick and give them a stopgap, like you said, the Band-Aid, right? And then the bigger organizations can come in after their red tape is handled and take care of it. So what's one of the things that has stood out? You can't mention names and stuff, right? But what's one of the things that stood out to you so far that was particularly engaging to you? One of the things that we did or who we dealt with or whatever situation?
I think all the intakes are engaging in a way, but the most interesting one was probably the fake DD14 that we dealt with, because that really, I thought maybe there'd be a couple of people trying to take advantage of a charity, but I feel like there's more than just a couple.
I think so too. I think a lot of people who take advantage of charities might slip through the cracks, right?
And that's part of growth, which we always talk about. I mean, pretty much every year we're applying new policies. We're asking opinions of people and stuff.
New measures to check things.
I just think it's hard though, because once you get someone who slips through the crack, or you get someone who did trick you, it's demoralizing, and then you have a bad outlook for the next intake. Because
that's true.
Right.
That's true too.
Because we're very personal individuals as an organization. It is just the two of us, and for the last month, there's no red tape to go through, so we get to know all of these people on a more intimate basis as well. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and Patrick, you've heard people say, on the phone intake that, thank you for listening to the story.
Yeah.
Whether or not you can help us, and Chuck and I have heard it a lot.
Oh yeah.
Right? Thank you for listening to us. Whether you can help or not, or whether how much you can or can't help. Thank you for hearing us. Thank you for hearing us out. Because frankly, the larger organizations, they don't have time or inclination to listen to the story so much. Like, they want to get the basics and then, put them into the machine to churn out a decision. And we want to hear, what's going on, what happened, why did it happen, is it sustainable if we give you assistance? Like, tell us who you are,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
to make that personal connection. So when we get a very potentially case of stolen valor, it's highly insulting.
Yeah.
No, and absolutely. And I think it was good for all of us as a learning curve. But was there any case that stood out to you in a positive way as far as what we had to do in handling it?
It would have to be the case where the girl or the person cried because we were helping them with the heating and the food.
People get very emotional when they finally get help after, because sometimes they go through a lot of organizations and the organizations either take too long or they say no.
Yeah, and if I'm correct in the case you're talking about, is it the one with the husband has cancer and we had to move a lot of earth to get the assistance that was needed.
Yeah.
While they worked through some of the red tape, and you did a really good job. You called as a follow-up to let them know that we did X, Y, and Z. And she actually praised you multiple times, even after that day. She mentioned
you said
you
that
by name. That she didn't realize that you were someone who was interning. That you sounded good.
She thought you were a caseworker like us. Yeah.
So it was really great to hear that.
It is good to hear stuff like that, because you're on the right track. If it was like, oh yeah, some kid was stuttering on the phone, be like, oh, we got to have him do better than that. But you got to the point where you were confident enough that she assumed you were a standard caseworker, which is good, really good.
Yeah, she thought I was Chuck.
That's what she did.
She's like, hey, Chuck. It's because Chuck always answers the phone and makes the calls, so people make this assumption. We have one of our VA social workers that when I call, he goes, hey, Chuck, and I'm like, no, it's Eric this time. And he's like, hey, Eric. So, it's... But she did praise you, and it's good. And not, when you weren't here, she praised you as well. But the thing is that one of the things that V2VG is good at, and we say it a lot, is that we collaborate with other organizations to get assistance.
Yeah. And
like Chuck was saying, in this case, there was a lot that needed to be done to get them good assistance, not just here's $5, but to get them them in a place where they can focus on what they need to focus on.
I think we were able to mostly give them 2 months of relief while they worked through some of the state assistance that they needed to go through.
Right.
And we still provide a talking point every week. We try and talk to him, and while he's going through his chemo and things. So
I think that's kind of the idea, right? Is that, like I was saying, that personal connection.
Yeah.
Like when you called to follow up. Do you think that an organization like this, Patrick, should do follow-up calls just to see how they're doing, or should it just be strictly, this is what we did for you, this is what's happening, goodbye, have a nice life?
I think that the follow-up calls makes this more of a family-run charity than an organizational charity. Because
that's fair.
Even in college, I'm studying psychology, they'll tell you, like, the whole process. And then after a couple chapters, it was like, yeah, you probably won't use the whole process because companies want you to go quick, and you're probably just going in once, and then someone else is taking your place. So just put down information. So when I came to this internship, I thought it was going to be much like that, but it wasn't. It was more people to people.
Yeah.
And I think that especially veterans appreciate that because, you know, they are so used to just receiving what they are given because of their military experience that when another veteran comes to them, they can drop their guard because they know who you are and what you've been through as well.
That's one of our perks, I think, of being veteran caseworkers is that you're absolutely right. It's a little bit easier for veterans to talk to us because there's some sense of shared experience.
No, and absolutely. And I do want to get to, though, you were kind of thrown into a very awkward situation in the fact that who you were interning with is your father, and then me being your neighbor, who is pretty much family. I mean, I'm over there every day. So with even though you're close enough for Dad to smack you, what was the good and bad about having Dad critique you on a regular basis?
I think the good is that I got to wake up like 5 minutes before coming out here because I closed at McDonald's, so it's kind of like flip-flopping through various time zones. You know, it sucks. However, I think the only bad thing is that I think you guys had a high expectation, which I think I mostly met, which is good, but it was nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I don't think it's a high expectation. We have high standards.
But the thing is, I think you nailed it. It was nerve-wracking because there was standards to be met.
Yeah.
Now we did 2 evaluations. We still have one more after your final 3 things to do. But in the first 2 evaluations, how do you feel I conducted them and rated you on those?
And for clarity, Chuck is the evaluator for Patrick,
yes.
Not me, because even though the professors waived that, I don't want there to be even the appearance of
absolutely
conflict of interest. So yeah, Chuck is the primary evaluator. I just chimed in.
And Chuck, you're very honest, so it was a very honest report. But it was good. It went well. I showed improvement, and that's all I can ask for with anything. As long as I'm improving, then I don't worry as much, you know.
We say the same thing about our organization in general.
When we did the evaluations and I broke down the scores we felt were low, it was easy for you to understand how you could improve those scores?
Yes.
Okay.
That's cool. Kind of the idea. We want to make it not just, hey, you're not doing so hot in this area, get better, but not tell you how.
Well, yeah, it's because it's an evaluation even though it's not work, as a supervisor or a leadership thing as well, because if I'm just saying, Patrick sucked at work today and that was it, and that doesn't show much of my leadership skills either. So
no, it doesn't, and it doesn't help you figure out where you can get better.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to learn where they're deficient and how they can increase that, including Chuck and myself. So, because it kind of what goes around comes around, right?
No, absolutely, and we talk about that a lot. What do you believe was your biggest weakness coming into being an intern? And that's including, the 3 assignments we have left. Would you consider your biggest personal weakness?
Waking up in the morning. And
timeliness.
I mean this with all honesty. I just.
But you did. I mean, there was honestly one incident that we felt you could have managed your time better, but other than that, you were either on time or early.
Yep. I mean, and that's good. What about an area where you think you need to improve, whether we marked it as needs improvement or not?
I do think that me being on the phone and talking, I could work on. I'm pretty good with the computer and like tech, so I can learn that. I don't think that's something I can improve, but it's not something I'm worried about.
So what is the area of improvement?
I think
you got
that
confidence on the phone.
Yeah, I think it's communication. I think it's understanding the rules.
Well, understanding the rules that's different because nobody knows. It comes with time, right?
Yeah.
Nobody knows. Although, you did surprise the hell out of Chuck and I with your understanding of the workings of V2VG, at least the policy, kind of, right?
Yeah, overall, and you've asked great questions.
Yeah.
So, would you think that it's just talking on the phone, or do you feel that it's more of a public speaking thing? Like, you have 2 interviews to conduct and then run a board meeting. Are those things that kind of make you a little anxious?
I think the board meeting does, because these other people have the expectations of you running it. But the interviewing doesn't scare me as much because it's just one-on-one, and since we're helping them, they're generally nice people.
That's fair. Yeah,
that makes sense.
I think the best thing for confidence is just to roll with it, and if you do screw up, most of the time they don't even know you screwed up. Just keep going.
I mean, and you saw everything that we do in our agenda is based on us, Eric and I, and but honestly, I think that one thing you can kind of put past you is the fact that you literally know everybody on the board, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everybody has seen you in one fashion or another, a form of weakness with being at the dojo or whatever the case is. So,
what about flipping it on its head? What area can I improve, and what area can Chuck improve upon?
Yes.
And I figured,
I like these. Yes.
yeah.
Like
if you were gonna rate us on something, what's one of the things that you think that I could improve on, and what's one of the things that Chuck can improve on?
I think that teaching, as I know no one really wants to teach someone how to do something, especially if it's obvious. Because we have a couple board members that I noticed that we have issues with, but I think that they just need help, and that help can make them better board members, because they're adults and they should be able to figure it out, and you give them the handbook. But I feel like for a couple of the people, you just need to straight up tell them.
Just better at instruction.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Everyone.
That makes sense. Yeah,
makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So almost like instead of having a board meeting, have an opportunity for a half hour a month where get everybody together and go through different aspects of
training, right?
I think that's a fantastic idea. I never thought about something
I think that's a good idea too. What about Chuck?
I think Chuck can do the same thing. I think it's for both of you. Not in a mean way, because you guys are the president. You guys do everything. If not, you're in every process.
Well, we kind of have to be, but yeah.
So it is irritating when you see that, but what I've learned from college is that some people are hands-on. Some people learn better through a handbook.
Yeah.
And you guys are veterans. You read what you need to do and then you do it. But a couple of these board members are not, and they're mostly used to being told what to do.
So we should bear that in mind, then. You're saying.
Yeah, I think.
I'm guessing is what you're saying. Yeah.
Because we have given the handbook out, but it does seem like there are things, I guess, that are askew from our board members, they're not fully aware of. So
despite the handbook instructions, so you're thinking hands-on instruction. So do you think that what would you call it? Like you said, Chuck, a training session would be good, an opportunity, hey, you guys come down such and such a day and time, and with your questions, and we'll go over in person, hands-on, what to do, what our policy is, or whatever the case is.
Yeah, I mean, if they're honestly so confused on band, you can just be like, this is what you need to do, and if you have any more questions, just come talk to me. Because I don't think you need a whole meeting, because that'll make it a little more stressful, but if you're just with them at an event, or just have some personal time to talk to them, just be like, hey, just to make things clear, this is how it is.
Okay. I think that's totally fair, totally reasonable.
Make it a point for us to personally speak to each one of the board members and find out what they may not understand, or individual suggestions, things of that nature.
Yeah, because
that makes sense.
At the end of the day, they're all volunteers and they have their own lives.
True.
So they'll.
True.
it is like lazy not to read the handbook, but it happens, and even if they do read it, they can still miss stuff. So.
And what do you think, to close it off from my questions, what do you think Veterans to Veterans Group as an organization should start doing or should stop doing organizationally?
Yeah.
Right.
Taking in stuff. No.
Well, talk to the boss about that, right?
I think that there's nothing wrong with the organization because we do pretty much anything for a veteran if they need help with it, as long as it's a good reason. And I think that is the best way for a charity to give, you know, because every situation is situational. So
That's true.
You tend to fit that situation. When organizations, as long as you fall into their categories, they will help you.
Whoop.
So
Everybody wake up.
Wake up. Yeah, so we actually listen and take everything into consideration, except for, like, we don't give loans.
well, yeah,
Yes, you know, we do have some policies.
Yeah.
I have, the last question I have for you is, there was one instance where you pretty much held all the power, all the information, and we had to make an executive decision, and we let you speak to your mom, who's our treasurer, one of our executives, completely by yourself. Eric and I did not mention anything to her,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
when I asked how the conversation went, she said that she
You know what he's
agreed
referring
with,
to.
Yeah.
Okay.
She agreed with everything that you had said. Now, how was that for you? And I understand it's comforting because it is your mom, but you had to, like, bring up some intimate and uncomfortable talking points.
yeah.
About this case.
Yeah, the case was kind of shady, and even for me listening to the case, I fell for it. I was like, oh, this man needs help. I care about, you know, all about his family and his life. You know, I want to help. And then afterwards, you explained to me why it was shady, and I agreed. You know, like, being a psychology major, I understood where you're coming from and why you see it like that, and so I wanted to explain to Mom what you saw, instead of, because I know Mom sees it through my perspective.
With the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so how did it make you feel to know that you did such a strong job that she didn't even ask Eric or Amaya's perspective on it?
Or for clarification.
I felt good because
Yeah.
I have a hard time remembering things, but when it comes to cases and people, I care, so I tend to remember more.
That's good, and I think that'll serve you well. I think it'll serve him very well in any field where psychology, counseling, guidance, whatever. I think that'll serve you very well. I think the main thing is to try to look at a situation with not just your subjective, you know, your emotional mind. You got to look at it with your objective, intellectual mind, and try to marry those two, which is where Chuck and I work great together, because we both have different slants to how we look at
skill
things.
sets that we
And
do
skill
well,
sets.
yeah.
I think that's really good.
And so what I would like, if you'd be willing to, Patrick, is when you finish your associate's aspect, I would like to interview you again and see if the internship has helped in any way, if it's hindered you in any way, and things of that nature. If you'd be willing to, of course.
Of course, yeah. I like talking. I like, you know, hanging out with you guys, so I'll totally do that.
Cool.
Also, I have another internship next semester, and I want to compare that to this, because that, if I do get into it,
Right.
the internship I want to go in, it's definitely going to be more organizational than a family run.
Yeah, and a lot more objective. Like they're cut and dry. Like, you know, A equals B equals C, and that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I definitely want to see how much of a difference it is, and how much how nice they are. Really, is what I'm kind of interested in.
how understanding.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I just want you to be aware that this was just as much of a learning process for Eric and I, because we've never done anything in this type of a fashion before. So we're glad that I think I can speak for Eric in saying that we're glad we were able to implement positive effect on you, and I truly believe that you've done a good job helping us understand how we need to approach certain things.
And that's the key, right?
Yeah.
It's all, like you said earlier, Patrick, it's all about growth, and we learn from you, you learn from us, and we even talk about the organization. If you're not growing, then you're failing.
Yeah, that's
So.
absolutely.
Anything you want to end with, Patrick? Any thoughts or ideas, words of wisdom?
Communication is key, and just be nice.
Communication is key, and be nice.
No.
One day you might be a veteran and change that.
Well,
My belly's full of caffeine and hate.